Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Awesome. Just letting some people into the meeting. Give me a sec here. Perfect. Awesome. How's everyone doing? Good.
Good.
Thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, let me just make sure I'm letting everyone in here. Hayden's just hopping on and then
Sorry,
I'll
Hannah.
him watch it. Yeah,
I
how you
wasn't
doing?
paying attention.
You weren't. Awesome. Okay, you can check the participants and see if I've been doing an okay job letting people in. Awesome. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. Got Hayden back on chat today, so he'll be monitoring the chat, but today we're kind of gonna take some time to go through automations. Um, We've been hearing more and more customers starting to dive into automations and build out some things and have some questions on how to build automations, but also like what's possible in building it. And also kind of like best practices, what are other people doing? So that's kind of what we want to focus on today, diving into those automations. So I'll walk through a little bit like how the automations work, some of the available triggers and actions that can happen in automations, and then we're going to walk through building some of the most common or most valuable, I think, workflows that I see customers building in their accounts. So we would also love to help any of you all if you have specific automations or what workflows that you're trying to build, or maybe you've built something you don't think it's working how you want it to. Feel free to like throw any of those questions in the chat, ask questions as we're walking through. We're happy to walk through like specific use cases that you all have as well. Um, so we'll kind of start with that, and then if we do have other questions past that, we're happy to answer those questions as well. Um, so
We started on it.
let's dive in. What is Donovan asking? How can we automate transitioning a prospect to client and enhancing data? Can we do it in Slant or is that a Zapier? Awesome. Yeah, we can start there. Let me share my screen and log into Slant. That would be helpful. Cool. Okay, so automations under the platform setting here. And to start a fresh automation, you'll click plus new automation. I will say mine still looks a little bit different. We're still working on this automation library, which is something I actually would love to ask later. So if you have types of automations you'd like to see in this, let's chat about that later for us to know what things to build in here. But you'll click plus new automation and you'll get this pop-up. If you've already started playing around with them, you can continue editing one that you're working on, or you can start fresh. Um, so um, Before we dive into the first workflow, let me just explain a little bit how it works. So a workflow, or sorry, an automation. When we first came out with automations, we named it workflows, and then we renamed it because Wealthbox and Redtail and other softwares have a different notion of what a workflow was. It was getting too confusing for everyone. So automations, um, what an automation is setting some sort of trigger event in the system. And then what actions do you want to just automatically happen when that event triggers within Slant? So there's a whole slew of different triggers and actions that you can set up within automations. Um, just to kind of briefly go through these all. So the first ones are going to be mostly like date-based triggers. So triggering based off of someone's birthday, triggering based on when someone is due for a client review, triggering on their client since date, so their anniversary with being a client with your firm, triggering based on when their next touch point is due, which some of these things can be set up in settings, and we'll dive into more of these specific examples. Setting something based on any date field, so any date custom field, triggering something relative to when a meeting starts, so X days before a meeting starts. And then we've got household-based triggers, so when either a prospect or client household is created, when a tag is added. This one, which is what we'll dive into for Donovan's question, when a prospect is promoted to a client. Um, the magic button is going to be a button trigger on the household chat. So rather than an event triggering something, it would be you pushing that button triggers it. We've got meeting-based triggers, so you can trigger actions when someone schedules a meeting or when a meeting is completed. So when the note taker has finished processing the meeting. Based on a magic button on the meeting chat. So same thing as the magic button on household, but on the meeting chat. Based on when a task is created or completed. And then for opportunities, when either an opportunity is created or an opportunity moves to a new stage. And then kind of a system one is email received. And yeah, those are the available triggers. And then when you select a trigger, you'll have a lot of different actions available. So I'm going to go ahead and select this prospect promoted to client trigger per Donovan's example. So what this does is when a prospect is promoted to a client is the event. So whenever you're on a prospect page, there's a promote to client button that you can click, or also if you're bulk promoting, that event is what would trigger this. So when you do that, and you hover over the trigger, you'll see plus button, which is where you can add the different actions that would happen when that event triggers. So I've seen a lot of different processes that people do for when a prospect is promoted as a client. Kind of depends on your system, but a few common ones I see is one,
Confetti first.
yeah, confetti first. You have to add
Oh, yes,
confetti.
they have confetti.
You're right, Hayden.
Yeah.
Yeah, the confetti makes everything more fun. I have so many random automations set up with confetti that I just have confetti bombs going off all the time in Slant when I'm in it, and it just makes my
Love
day
it.
more fun. So, um, yeah. So first, you got to trigger the confetti, and you can even get fun with it. And you can do the raining confetti. You can do the cannon confetti. You got the firework confetti.
You can make it pop on everybody else's screen too. So if
Yeah,
anybody else is in slant
yeah. I
and
can
you
make
convert somebody to a client, their screen explodes in confetti.
I can make Hayden aware when I promote a prospect to a client. Yeah. So, anyways, the confetti is just fun, but so yeah, first you'll add confetti, and then if you hover over any of the spaces, you can add in other steps. So if you want to do like a multi-step workflow, you can do that. Um, so let me go here. Other actions that you could do though that I see people commonly do with promoting prospect to a client. One would be start a project and have it start your new client onboarding project. So, um, again, a project is like a series of tasks. Often there's a lot of tasks that go into onboarding a new client with account setup, sending them contracts, sending them questionnaires, gathering information, having the first meeting, setting up their accounts and all your other planning tools and systems, things like that. And so I see a lot of customers like to set up a project with all the tasks that are involved in onboarding a new client so that you can keep track of those things. And also, projects help chronologically order tasks, so especially because some of those tasks are dependent on you completing other steps first, like you have to gather their information before you can put it into their accounts and things like that. Projects can be really helpful for that. So again, depending on your process, you could start a project. Other things that I'll see people do is like send a welcome email. So they've got like maybe their disclosures and like a welcome brochure, things like that that they just want to automate and have sent as soon as someone's promoted to a client. You can send that automated email and you can pull in either email templates that you have or just write it here off the bat for um, an email that you want to send when someone's promoted. Um, Other things you might do is if you're tr keeping track of like a client pipeline with opportunities, you might add the opportunity to pipeline, or even find the opportunity and update it. Maybe if they were already an opportunity, but they're moving to like a closed one stage or something like that. Um, Other things you could do as well is add to sequence. So a sequence is going to be like a series of automated emails and tasks. So maybe if you know that you like to do kind of like a new client like email campaign where they get one email with some information on day one, and then 3 days later they get a little bit more information. If you like to kind of send it out in stages rather than all in one email, you could do that there. You can just like sending an automated email, send an automated SMS message if you're connected with one of our texting partners, so current client, My Rep Chat, or Ring Central. So all sorts of things you can do. Again, I think it kind of depends on your process. You can also like notify other team members. So if you know, your operations person or servicing person needs to do some of these tasks, they can be notified via email. Hey, this person's been promoted. Go ahead and go in and do these things. Or, of course, rather than doing like a project with series of tasks, you also could just add in your own manual tasks into the workflow here. So you can get as detailed as you need to be with it. You can also keep it really simple and just add to a project or whatever that looks like for you. But with, I think, second part of your question was with the data enrichment. Um, Slant will automatically, so especially if they already existed as a prospect before, but if you have either a phone number or email address in for the client, when they're or in for the prospect, Slant will automatically try and do the data enrichment. Um, if you maybe didn't have the email or phone number in for them originally, you can always like go into a client and have it try and retry the enrichment. So I don't know if I have a good example I can show, but um, yep, here we go. So if you go into a client, you can go and do the retry enrichment if it fails and can't find anything. But if you do put in like an email or phone number, it will try for that enrichment. So that is one example of an automation. Let me start fresh again there. Um,
What's the best practice for data entry? So like typically for me, it's like I've got a prospect and it's like usually first name, last name, email, phone number. But then they
mhm.
become a client and we get address, social security, date of birth. We get, client compliance questionnaires about like experience with stocks. We look into their children, their spouse, and all of that information as well. And so that's really usually the first part when I can convert to a client. The first step that I want to do is connect it to my like email or my website onboarding. We get a PDF and we also have like electronic version that we could like send over. And then that's what I'd want to do, promote to clients, data cleanup, and then start onboarding sequence once we have both of the clients into the database. And then we start the sequence of like add them to Nudge, set up Monarch Money, etc.
Donovan, have you played around with the document extractor? Where
No,
you have not? Sorry.
no, I've not.
So that's where you got a PDF and you can go to, the client record that's pretty empty, and you can
Okay.
upload a PDF, and Slant's smart enough to scan that document and try to
Oh,
pull out all the relevant information. And then you can review that and say, oh yeah, social, here's the person, here's the contact information and all this stuff, instead of having to do that all manually.
okay. So then my
That,
what
that,
I
that
would
wouldn't
do
be a part
then,
of the automated workflow though.
Yeah, that
It would
probably
be
would be
like
manual.
outside of that.
Yeah.
yeah, so I promote to client, probably the first thing that would happen, and then it would immediately assign a task to grab the said document and
Yeah.
upload, and then
Mhm.
QA the data, and then we start the next workflow like onboarding 2.0.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, awesome. I
Yeah.
mean,
Or
that's
Or
these are the
alternatively,
time wasters where I'm just like, oh man, like this is the type of stuff for sure where
Yeah,
it'd be
manual
yeah,
data.
sorry to chime in here. You're now seeing my back and my face. This is Hannah's meeting, and Hannah stopped inviting me because I talk too much. Um,
False.
what I would probably do is in your project, like your first milestone, make your project milestone something like gather information or fill out client profile.
Okay.
Um, and there's only one task in there, and it's create the profile or whatever. And
Hmm.
so, as a part of your project, you don't need to like do wait steps or anything to get them into the project. Just get them into the project, and the first task before any other tasks get created and any other milestones get kicked off is to do the PDF filler or the PDF extraction and fill out all the client details. And then once you've done that, then you check it off and it automatically moves on to the next
Okay.
milestone.
Okay.
That's what
Gotcha.
I would play around with.
Now, what would be cool is in the project, if I get to the milestones, it'd be really cool if I had like a magic button to like launch an automation. Once let's say that I do the manual work and I get people that are, we get all their name, date of birth, social security number, everything is securely into the system. And then we
Mhm.
get to a point where we're going to want to send them off from current client, an intro text. Hey, this is our client only phone number. Text us and call
Yep.
us anytime. Welcome to, the Carson Capital family. And then we send off the email of exactly what to expect and book your onboarding call with a little maybe like PDF and all that good stuff. That would be really cool if I could then launch like in
Yeah.
between, like integrate automations and projects together almost.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just have right now in the milestones of the project, I say, go launch
Go
XYZ.
go do the thing. Yeah.
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 You
Okay.
can, something this is like we're getting complex here, but
Sorry, Hannah, I'll go in.
no, you're good, Hayden. So it's kind of a workaround I've seen for people that want to do this is one of the triggers that you can do is when a task is completed, and then you can do it based on the condition if like a certain label is present. And so a task is a project, it's part of the project. If you create like a custom label for the task and add that label to the task in the project and set up this automation, then you can technically trigger the automation automatically from a task in the project being completed. So again, you just have to set up like a task label that's specific to whatever automation you want to have, add it to the task in the project. And then if you build this automation based on, hey, task is completed and the label says this, then, send text or whatever, you technically can get around that. So still a
Okay,
cool
that's
idea
great.
to set off the automation from the project, but this is a workaround you could build.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Awesome ideas. I love hearing how people do their new client onboarding process. Um, cool. I think I've missed some chats. Let me see if there was anything specific to call out. Um, okay, so I'd still like to automatically send meeting notes to clients after meeting with disclosures. Notes created by AI advisor will follow up personally on items via nudge, etc. Um,
All my clients have gotten really used to. I've used Loom in the past, and Loom always automatically sends the tasks, the meeting notes. You can AI search the notes and see the video and the presentation.
yeah.
I've gotten really used to that, and now I want to get rid of Loom. I don't need Loom anymore to do like that specific function, but I'd love Slant to do that in its place, of
Mhm.
course, with the disclosures.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there might be, and I'm sure there's some product development here because I don't know. Well, it might be able to do the tasks. Something you could, and I will say this as I have not fully tried it, so I would say let's play around with it and try it. And there might be more product development that needs to happen on our side. But something you could I'm thinking you could set up is based on the meeting completed trigger. And again, you could add conditions for if it contains a certain title or whatever, if you need different prompts for different meeting types. But if you have it do an AI research step, and you can have it just give it the prompt to look at the notes, and you can tell it to focus on tasks for the client, outstanding tasks for the client. Um, then I believe you should be able to, um, well, kind of depends, I guess, on how you want to do it, but you can reference the AI research step as a variable in some of the other things. So when it comes to drafting an email, right now we don't have any automated emails that send when AI drafts them. We still have human approval for that. But if it's like created as a note or created in a place where you can easily like copy and paste it, or as an AI draft, that is something that you could approve and send. So maybe how I would do it for now and again, like anytime the AI is drafting emails right now, we make you review it, but you could do it either as like a prompt snippet, as a magic button, or as a task. Any of those ways you do it, it could reference the research step and draft the email for you so that you still have to click the send button, but hopefully, it gets you more of the way there.
Okay,
Uh,
sounds
Something,
good.
yeah, something probably to look at though would be automatically sending the meeting notes from the meeting. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no,
ideas.
that'd be great. I mean, I turned Loom off of like the automatic sending the meeting notes, and like this week I had multiple client meetings, and right after they're like, "Hey, where are my notes?"
Yeah.
Like they get
Yeah,
so
they
used to
love them.
getting their notes right after the meeting with
Yeah.
their action steps, and many times they might have like 20 minutes after the phone call where they can start going and doing the things that we talked about. So,
Yeah.
so it's before I can go and review even like and send out an email and do all this other stuff. Clients
Mhm.
just love that immediate like, and especially when it's hey, this was generated by AI. Be very careful. This is not advice.
Yeah.
Talk to your advisor if there's any discrepancy, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. There's something to think about there because I know a few systems do that with automatically sending the meeting notes after a meeting's completed. Um, awesome. Good questions. Okay, Hayden, I think you've been catching up. Anything to call out for?
Do you want to? I was just responding to Garrett Harper. Do you want to
Uh-huh.
jump in and respond to him?
Yes.
Project templates, getting the AI or getting the task to generate an email, I think is the question. Is that right, Garrett?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
working on a project template.
we were
Sorry, go
just
ahead.
creating one of the project tasks, our
Hmm.
templates, and 1 second we had it where we gave it the email generation prompt, and we
Hmm.
were testing it out on a profile, and it worked fine. And then we went back to the project, tweaked it, restarted a project on a client just to test it out, and it wouldn't show up anywhere. So I didn't know if there was a certain process you have to go through to kind of update those AI generation pieces or what it might be.
Hmm. Yeah, it should, if you're creating a new project, like when you edit the prompt on a task and if the project is existing, it will not go and update the task. It should, though, if you were to update the AI prompt or the template on a task in a project and you start a new project, it should pull up that AI overview in the task. It will only do it if the contact added to the project has an email on file, because it won't draft emails unless there's an email to send the drafted email to. So that's something I would maybe look at. But if you think that it should have and it didn't, you could always like either shoot me an email or shoot a private message to Hayden and I with the contact in it, and we could take a look and see what's going on.
Okay. One thing I noticed with that too was when it was creating the email,
Hmm.
the only way we could get to the part where it says AI prompt or AI output was being on the project page. You couldn't just be looking at the task, like on the client.
You should be able to, let me see if I have any. Um, oh yeah, here we go. So this one is part of a project. If you click on the task and then click on AI action, this is where you should see the draft of the email. So if it's associated and if it's associated with a project, it will have the folder icon for the project. And then this task has a AI prompt as one of the well, associated with the task. And then you should be able to see it in your regular task list as well, or if you're on the task list on the household page, either way, it should open up this side menu. And then if you click AI action, you should see the drafted email.
Yeah, and we saw it there the first time, and then we tried to
Mm.
make a change to it, and we reattached the project to try to test out the new prompt, and we couldn't get to pop up. So yeah, so
Okay.
probably
We can,
internal, I
yeah,
guess.
we can troubleshoot your specific examples. So, um, I'm sure we can look at it and see what variables may have caused that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Um, awesome. Okay. So, Hayden's answering all of these. I'm going to temporarily move on. Oh, you are? Okay.
Just a sec.
Okay.
I just put a quick poll in because there's been some chatter back and forth. We assumed that doing like a 15-minute loom. So after these webinars, Hannah typically goes out of her way to record like a 15-minute loom summarizing what we talked about on this webinar, the most salient points, and post that to YouTube. There's some chatter in the chat that you wouldn't want that, and instead you'd want the full video posted to YouTube. I just put a quick poll in the Zoom chat. If you'd rather have the full video, that's probably easier for Hannah. Respond like do the one reaction. Um, and if you want just the loom, do the two.
What if we want a separate custom video for each of us that Hannah
Yeah,
creates based on
you
our
might,
interests? Can she do
Robert,
that?
your bill might go up because we need to hire 5 more Hannahs. Ones, holy cow.
Yeah, look at that.
All right. Robert wants 2. Tough luck, Robert. Okay, that's easier.
Yeah, that is sincere.
You cool with that?
I'm cool with that.
What's Vox Populi, Vox Dei, right? Give people what they want.
Nice
Yeah.
poll.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew. My Latin stinks, but you know. All right, as you were.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Cool. Um, okay. Well, awesome. We went down a couple different rabbit holes. So I'm gonna come back to
Go to
operations,
YouTube and
but
subscribe then. Subscribe to
yeah,
our YouTube.
that's true.
It's like I'll drop the
Drop the link in the chat. That's great.
I bet Emma doesn't shout out like this, does she?
Emma doesn't shout at all. Emma's very soft-spoken. Okay, so back to automations, and this is great. So keep putting chats and questions in here, but we'll come back to a couple other automation examples that I see people loving in Slant. Um, Probably the one that people are using the most or think saves the most time would be the client review automation. So briefly, before I go into this, I'll do another reminder on just like setup for client reviews. So in settings, under engagement is where you can set up your client review settings. So the first thing that I would recommend that everyone does is choose like some sort of unique naming convention for your client reviews. Um, and then what you can do here is add a keyword that Slant can then go and identify if meetings on your calendar contain the keyword in the title of the meeting. So our default is review, but whatever you use to name those, you can put in here and add. And I think we actually ended up showing this last week on the webinar, but as a reminder too, like if you use Calendly or other systems, a lot of them by default do not put the name of your meeting type into the title of the meeting. So just make sure that it truly is in the title of the calendar event. If you have an automated system, obviously, if you're manually doing that, you can handle that. But set up a keyword for your review meetings. And then the other thing you'll want to do is set up a cadence or like frequency for how often you're holding reviews with clients. And so you can put all of your clients on the same frequency. You can also do it by tier, and you can set up now up to 8 different tiers for clients and have different clients be defaulted to a different cadence. Um, or, of course, you can also set up surge reviews if you do that as well. So you'll want to set up those settings, scroll to the bottom, make sure you click Save Changes when you're ready. And this will kind of set up the backbone for settings for the client reviews. So as a reminder, if you go under clients and reviews, you'll have a table where, and All my coworkers keep messing up my tables. I need to fix this, but we all share a company account and demos get crazy, I guess. Anyways, so yours will look a little bit different than mine because mine is a little bit messed up right now. But you'll have your last review meeting, which again, this is where it looks at the keywords that you've put in settings. It looks at past calendar events and it identifies if there are any calendar events with that keyword in the title. Um, you might be able to set this and have it go moving forward, but for the initial setup, you can come in here and manually come in and set when the last meeting date was if you have not been using some sort of keyword in your meeting titles. But then what it will do is it will take your review cadence that you set from settings, and again, this can also be manually overridden for individual clients if it can't be a one size fits all type of thing that you have. But it will take that review cadence, it will take when your last review meeting was, and it will calculate automatically when their next review meeting should be due. And again, this can also be manually overwritten if you do have specific dates you want to fill in. But this date is what is going to trigger that automation is when their next review is due. So when you come to automations and you start a new automation, we'll start fresh. And then the trigger again would be client review reminder. And then you can set out how far in advance you want to do whatever action for your client review. So again, this is triggering 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, etc. before their next review due date. The condition I would recommend adding for everyone is the condition if next review meeting is not scheduled. That way you already take out the manual work of saying like, okay, it's, 2 weeks before, but I already did schedule some people just from talking to them on the phone or other interactions, but some people are not scheduled. So essentially what this trigger is doing is every day it's checking if there are any clients that have a review due 2 weeks from today and they do not have any future meeting event that contains your keyword in the title. And if that's true, then they will go on through this automation. Um, and so again, everyone has a different process on their client reviews. Some people like more automation and some people like more human oversight and review, but you can go as far as just automating a templated email that would say, you know, hey client, it's time for your next financial review. I'd like to get something on the calendar. Here's my scheduling link. Or some people like to have a little bit more oversight into that. And so if you don't want an automated email, you could always just create a task for you to go in. And you could even include an email draft. So you're getting yourself 90% there where it will give you a task, queue up a draft, but then you are able to review that email before it's sent to the client. Some people what they might want to do is segment this approach. So if you have different tiers for your clients, maybe you want more human oversight for like your A tier clients, but you're okay to send automations for other tier clients. One of the steps you can add in an automation is to branch the logic. And it hates when you already have a step created. So let me delete this so it doesn't look wonky. Um, let's see, delete that. So if you build your trigger and you add an action, you can add that branching logic. And basically what you're doing is now setting conditions, further conditions. So you're setting like logic paths. So if they meet condition A, then these actions will happen. If they meet condition B, then these actions will happen. And so what you could say is, hey, if this first condition is true, so how I'd set it up, let me move my Zoom window, is I'll name the branch like A tier clients, and I want to add the condition if they have A tier, then I want them to go down to this logic. Otherwise, though, everyone else will go down here. So this is going to be like my B through C clients. And you can add multiple branches. So if you wanted to customize it even more than that, like have A tier have something happen, B tier, so on and so forth, you can add other conditions. But then once you add those conditions, it will kind of operate like normal, like a workflow. So you could say, hey, I want my A tier clients to create a task for me with an email draft. So I get that human oversight. But for my B through C clients, I am fine just sending them an automated email. And so again, you can customize this. Other things I will also see people do past sending like an email is start a project. So again, you could start a project, you could start a sequence. The annual review project is another very common project that I see people set up in Slant because there also tends to be lots of tasks associated with the annual review. Um, so that is client review automation. I'll pause there again to see, Hayden, if there's anything I should call out from the chat or if anyone else has any other questions about this specific automation or anything else we can dive to.
No, the chat has, I think I've answered everything in the chat. If I missed anything, no.
Awesome. Okay, we'll move on to another automation then that I see people loving and using. So, another automation is the touch point reminder. So, this is going to be somewhat similar to client reviews and how it works. Um, the touch point settings are found in the same place as the review settings. So, if you go into settings and engagement and you scroll past this client review section, you will find the touch point cadence section. So, touch points are meant to help you like stay in touch with clients past or past what their typical like review cadence is. So between formal reviews, you may have a preference for like, hey, I want to make sure I have at least one email sent or a meeting or some sort of touch point with the client. And everyone may have a different preference on how often that happens, but you just want to make sure you're staying in contact with clients past their review. And so touch points help you do that. The first option you have is to select what activity types would be counted towards a touch point. So if you only want to include like meeting touch points, you could do that. Or again, only email touch points, whatever that looks like, you can um, deselect options here to say this is what counts as a touch point. And then similarly to the client reviews, you're able to set a frequency on how often clients should have these touch points between their formal reviews. And again, if a meeting is marked as a review, so it identifies that keyword, we count that separately from a touch point. So um, you can also do it different frequency for different tiers. So you probably want to have more touch points with your A tier clients than you do with your D tier clients. Or maybe not. Maybe you just blanket want to make sure you have at least one touch point with everyone in your firm. So you have options there again where you can do it based off of tier, or you can just have a frequency for all tiers. Once you set this up, then this kind of provides the backbone for the touchpoint tracking. So I will often see people set up a touchpoint tracking page similar to the review page. And we also have a last touchpoint column, a next touchpoint due column, and then the touchpoint cadence column that works just like the review column. So the last touchpoint will again look at past events. Dependent on what you have in your settings, it will look at emails, calendar events, so meetings, text messages. Ooh, confetti. See, this is what I'm saying. This is why I put all these automations in my account. Um, but you're able to hover over a touch point to get like more details on the email or meeting or whatever's happening. But it will take whatever your touch point cadence is. And again, same thing, you can manually override it for specific households, but it will calculate when the next touch point is due based on that. And then this date is what triggers that next touch point due automation trigger. So when you start a new automation, and I start fresh here, the trigger here is client touchpoint reminder. And then again, you can say, X days before their next touch point is due, I want something to happen. So when someone, becomes due, you can have the action happen. Or if you want to make sure, like when someone's up, it's getting close to their touch point being due, some sort of action happens, you can do that. And so, again, I'll see people do like adding a task for them to reach out. You could do any sort of automated email where you just want to say, hey, it's been a minute since I checked in. How are things? How can I help? All of that is possible there. Um, awesome. And again, I'll just keep going through some different automation examples. So if there are questions on this or any other specific automations you want to go through, Hayden, either yell at me or throw something in the chat, you all, or unmute and ask your question as well. Um, awesome. I will briefly touch, I'm just reading through the chat right now because Hayden's typing furiously, so I'll help him out. Shannon asked client notes versus comment. What are the differences in use case? Notes in Slant, and Hayden actually just sent an answer to this, so he's great. But um, notes are intended, I think, to be like more context, more information on them. Something we noticed is that from bringing in lots of data imports from Redtail and Wealthbox and things like that, is that there were lots and lots of notes. And some of those notes were just like quick things like called, left a voicemail, or just like little notes like that. And it would clutter up the notes that maybe had more information and were more robust than that you actually wanted to find. And so we created comments as a way for you to like add those quick little notes without cluttering up your actual note feed. But also it's a great place for collaboration with team members if you have other team members within Slant because you can @mention people and it will notify them in notifications and also via email. So I'll touch on that just briefly because I saw that. Okay, Hayden is still answering people's questions in the chat, so I'm gonna just go on to another automation. Um, okay, next thing I'll go through is the client custom date reminder trigger. So this one is a little bit more recent than some of our other triggers. We added this afterwards from feedback from clients. So um, this will trigger off of any custom field that is a date type custom field. So there are a lot of use cases for this, and you can kind of use it as a workaround for some different things. But a common one I see is like contract renewal dates, or there are certain things you have to do yearly when someone is coming due or yearly or, on some sort of reoccurring cadence that you have to do. And there are times when it might be like a reoccurring task will solve for that, but there are times where there's a different date for different clients, or maybe the cadence is like every 3 years or something that a reoccurring task just doesn't make sense to use. So the client custom date reminder is great for this. Um, if you have a date field, and we clean up our custom fields all the time now, but if you had like a any sort of date field. So something I see a lot is like ADV contract renewal date. You could say, okay, anytime I want you to check that date field for a client, and then you have the option to either match the specific date, so it will look at the year and only do that notification when it matches the year, or you can have it be an annual date, so it's just looking at the month and day and it would happen annually. And then you can again say if you want it to happen on that date or upcoming on that date. So I'll see this for when people are due to like send disclosures again, when they have a contract renewal coming to set up. I even will see people do this for like annual service calendars where they want to make sure they do something like quarterly for their client or whatever that looks like. You can kind of hack the system by setting up different triggers with this custom date reminder. And so again, it will just look at the match type. It will look at when you want that thing to happen relative to that date in the custom field. And then same thing, you can configure a task, you can configure an automated email, whatever that looks like. Something I'll mention with this too is any sort of custom field can be updated in bulk. So if you do want to trigger something based on like a date and you kind of want to like schedule it out in a future, this is kind of a hacky way that you can do that. So again, if you have that custom field date, you can set that up here. But I do get questions a lot about, hey, I just want to like set things in advance in the future and have either a task created for me or have an automated email go out for those types of tasks. And so this is a way to do that with this custom date reminder trigger.
You ready for a request?
I am ready for a request.
From Garrett Harper. Hannah, can you walk through an email received trigger? I've been attempting to make this trigger a task, but can't get it to work when testing.
Yes. Yeah, let me talk through this. And also, depending on what you want to do, there may be a different way to do it in Slant. But I'll talk through a couple things. So email received, how these conditions work here. So what this is doing is first you select whose integration it's for. So let's see, where's my email? When I receive an email, I want it to look at my email. And then this trigger is basically for if there's some use cases for this, but like if it's an unknown sender, it means their contact is not in Slant. So their email address is not associated with a contact within Slant. And then emails from existing contacts means that the email address you're receiving the email from comes from a contact that exists somewhere in Slant. So there's a couple different ways you could use this. Like some people really don't like this and may not want to set this up, but some people do want this. And I know Wealthbox and Redtail have a function for this, but some people like to create contacts for like any email that they receive. Technically, you can recreate that by saying, hey, anytime I receive a contact and their contact does not already exist in Slant, then I want you to create and parse out a contact. But also other things that people will do is like if you receive emails from a lead source, so from like Smart Asset or Dave Ramsey, or you get intake forms that send you an email, or Calendly. When someone books a Calendly, you get an email sent to you with that calendar booking. You can do conditions for things like that. So one, you can say, hey, if it's from a specific email, so I've set this up for like Smart Asset, for example, you can put like that Smart Asset email address in there. So anytime you get a new lead from that specific email, or again from like an intake form on your website or whatever that may be, then you want this action to happen. Other things I've seen is like if it contains a certain like subject or body. So again, based on like keywords, maybe there's things that you want to do. But I'll show this example. So this is one that I kind of commonly set up is like emails from an unknown sender. So let's say it's like a Calendly, a no reply Calendly email or Smart Asset email or something like that. You don't have them in as a contact, and you would put the exact email match in here or contains, but I would recommend is. It seems to be a little bit more precise. Common steps that people will do with this. One is the parse and create contact field. So this can kind of take the place of like a Zapier connection. And so what you're doing is saying, okay, I want to create a record type. I either want to create a client, prospect, or other contact. And then you're simply just using an AI prompt to tell it what fields to look for in the email and match into Slant. And so it works really well if you just say like, create a prospect and add their email, phone number, address, um, and you could go on forever. Like if we don't have if we don't have it as a default custom field, you can if you create a custom field that matches whatever you've got in the email, it does a really good job with that. So I'll use Smart Asset as an example, but like they have fields for like socially responsible investing. Like if you have a field called socially responsible investing, you can simply just put like socially responsible investing. I spelled that wrong. I'm trying to type fast, but it will look at that field name in the email as well as the custom field name in Slant, and it can input that information for you automatically. So that's something that can be done. Your specific question, and maybe you can help me understand a little bit what you're trying to do here, but you can create a task from an email being received. This would be creating a specific task though, so it would not be like AI dependent on the different email being received. This would be saying like every time this email is received, I'm creating this specific task and it's going to have the same description and title every time. And
Yeah.
you can add like an email draft in there to do that. But if you want to generate tasks from emails that are received, that I would do with the generate tasks button in Slant. But sorry, I think I cut you off. Go ahead and maybe explain
Now,
what.
the way we were trying to use it is we use Ignite, and we use it for like client uploads. And so
Mhm.
if I get an email from Ignite that says this person uploaded a file. My trigger is it comes from notify at ignite.com. The subject says uploaded file, and then it just creates a task for someone on our team just to review that document
Mhm.
and move it into a client folder. So it's a
Hmm.
task.
Hmm.
Um, we've tried it 10 times and we can't get it to trigger, to trigger the automation.
Okay. We can look at your specific use case that I'm happy to I can throw my calendar in or shoot you an email or something afterwards. And we can go through your specific setup together and work on that. But yeah, you should be able to do that. I'm sure there's just some variables and things we'll need to adjust with the settings, but um, you can create like you're saying, if it's just a ta task to go look at it and you get the same like subject line, then we can take a look at that and build that out. Awesome. Um, Other questions, Hayden, that I should address?
I don't think so.
Okay. Let's see, what time is it? 10:52. Um, okay, I won't dive into all of these with the time we have left, but let me just reference a few other common ones. And I will say like automations, um, take time to learn. Uh, we are always happy to help like build automations, and so you can always reach out to whoever your CSM is. We're willing to book time with you and work through your specific automations because it's going to be a little bit different for everyone. We also do have some great resources with like the AI chat. So if you have questions on like, hey, is it possible to build this automation or how could I build this? I'd also recommend using the AI chat to get answers there. But to touch on a few other ones that I see people really enjoy using. Um, Let me switch out the trigger here so you can see all the available actions. Okay, other popular ones that I see people enjoy using. One would be around opportunities. So the default right now for pipelines is obviously someone will just move through the stages of the pipeline. But if you want to automate different actions happening based on someone being in a specific stage in a pipeline, that is something that you can do. And so you can trigger automations based on, hey, if someone moves to the stage and it's this specific, the prospect pipeline connected stage, then I want X, Y, and Z to happen. And so you can get really customized with the experience that those prospects or clients have. So you may want to send an automated email after you connect saying, hey, thanks so much for connecting. Like, here's my contact information if you need anything. Some people may want to automatically create a task when they get to a specific stage and they need to be called or a meeting needs to be scheduled or whatever that might look like. And so this can really help customize that pipeline stage and automate tasks being created, emails being sent, actions that might need to happen based on that. Um, the other thing I'll mention with opportunities is you can automate like finding an opportunity, and then having some sort of like action happen based on that. And so you could find the opportunity and then move it to a specific stage based on something happening. So if you wanted, I probably wouldn't do this trigger, but you could say like, hey, if a meeting is scheduled with the title discovery meeting, then I want you to find the opportunity on this pipeline and I want you to move them to the connected, or let's see, I think there's like a scheduled stage, meeting scheduled stage. And so there's ways even for you to automate people moving to specific stages based on actions happening in the CRM. Um, and then again, something else with opportunities that I see people commonly build is just wanting to automatically create an opportunity when, for example, a prospect is added into the system and just adding it to that pipeline. So, something you can easily build is like, hey, every time a household is created and it's a prospect household, and you can add conditions if you have different pipelines for different like sources or whatever that looks like. Then I want to create an opportunity and you'll put some default values in here. You'll probably have to go and obviously and update it specifically for the value or probability. But I guess something I'll talk, this is unrelated, I guess, to automations, but on opportunities, you can put a setting for AI to automatically update the value and probability and fields on your opportunity card based on meetings, based on like AI pulling context. So this is something you could set up where it at least gets the opportunity created. And then if you want to turn the AI feature on the opportunity card, you can do that when you click onto the settings. You can do the AI auto update enabled so that it just saves those changes for you. Um, but yeah, I'll pause there for a moment. I could talk on and on about automations. Automations are, I will say, automations can feel overwhelming. There's a lot you can do, but they're so fun to play around with. And so I would like encourage everyone to, once you feel like you have your feet on the ground, you've gotten your data imported and you feel comfortable using like the basic functionality of Slant, then automations is really where you can like level up and start to become more efficient in your processes. So, um, I probably should have asked this earlier, but something I would love to hear. So we are working on building an automation library where we would have some templates that you would be able to just select and pull from and then edit them and customize them for your systems. If you have any ideas for the types of automations, even just like general themes or topics, or something as specific as the like specific automations that you would like to have built out in there, I would love if you could just throw those ideas in the chat and we'll save the chat history. I'm sure we've had some being thrown out throughout this meeting as well. But that is something we're going to be working on. Props to Hayden is right for keeping up with the chat. But something we'll be working on is adding like a library for you all to pick and choose from. So you some of the hardest things is just thinking like what is possible, what can I do, how can I start? And so creating that library as a starting place for you all to get ideas and then building off of that. Um, so yeah, would love for you all to throw that in the chat. Um, and then I'll plug again for anyone that is like, hey, this brought up some even more questions on how I can build out specific automations. We are always happy to help build those with you. So please reach out to your CSM, either Emma or I, or if you've been working with Cade in the chat, any of us are happy to help build those automations with you. I love it. Make sure each automation has confetti included in the automation. Awesome. Okay, I'll keep leaving the chat open just for 1 or 2 more minutes for people to throw in their ideas in there. But thanks so much for coming. It sounds like we're going to be making some changes to upload the full webinar per all of your feedback. So we'll get working on that and get those uploaded so that you all will have the recordings and the context to look back at all of these. But thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.